Okay, this video is going to help you with the basics of the two rules called the product and quotient rules that we're going to talk about in section 3.1. They're pretty straightforward. Firstly, the product rule, all that is if you want to take the derivative of the product of two functions, f of x times g of x, you take you take f of x and multiply it by the derivative of g of x, and then add that to g of x times the derivative of f of x. So it's pretty straightforward, and I'm going to do an example here to demonstrate that. Okay, so for example, if we're given the function y equals x times x squared plus 4 to the fourth, to find the derivative, y prime, we need to take f of x and multiply it by g prime of x, and then add that to f prime of x times g of x. So to do that, we're going to say y prime equals f of x, which our f of x is going to be x. Our g of x is going to be x squared plus 4 to the fourth. So we're going to say x times the derivative of x squared plus 4 to the fourth. So it's going to be 4 times x squared plus 4 cubed, and then we have to multiply that by what's inside the parentheses, so 2x. Okay, so now we're going to add that to the derivative of f of x. So the derivative of x is just 1 times g of x. So x squared plus 4 to the fourth. Okay, so now kind of the trick in this, or the tricky part of this, is the simplifying. So now to simplify this, do you see that we have, what is that, 8x squared, I'm multiplying the 4 times 2 and the 2 x's, times x squared plus 4 cubed. And then this is plus x squared plus 4 cubed. Now, do you see that once we get this cleaned up, that we can factor x squared plus 4, oh wait, this isn't cubed, this should be the fourth. We can factor x squared plus 4 out, x squared plus 4 cubed out. So let's walk. Okay, so let's erase this real quick, the main mistake. Okay, so if we want to factor x squared plus 4 cubed out of our first term, we're going to write x squared plus 4 cubed out. And then what's left over in our first term when we factor 3x squared plus 4 out, 3x squared plus 4 is out, we're left over with 8x squared. Then what is left over in this term when we factor 3x squared plus 4 out? Do you see there are 4x squared plus 4's here? So there's 1x squared plus 4 left over in this term. So now that we factored that out, do you see if we can simplify this to be x squared plus 4 cubed times 9x squared plus 4. And this is the form, the answer form that my math lab is going to be looking for. They want you to find a common term, factor it out, and then simplify after factoring. So I hope that makes sense. Next rule we're going to talk about is the quotient rule. Same idea when you are dividing two functions. You take g of x, the denominator, multiply it by the derivative of the numerator, and then subtract the numerator times the derivative of the denominator, and then divide all of that by the denominator squared. You have to be careful about the order here, because since it's subtracted, it's very important. Like with the product rule, it didn't matter what order you did them in, but in the quotient rule it's important because there's a subtraction sign there. Okay, so for example, if we have a problem like this and we want to differentiate this, first thing we want to do is assign f of x and g of x. So to find the derivative, remember the derivative is going to be f prime of x times g of x minus f of x times g prime of x, all of that divided by g of x squared. So let's go ahead and apply that to a problem we have here. Y prime is going to be the derivative of f of x, which is going to be 14x times g of x squared plus 5, minus the derivative of g of x, which is going to be what, 2x? Yes. Times f of x, which is going to be 7x squared plus 6. We're going to divide all of that by the just g of x squared. So x squared plus 5 squared. So again, we want to simplify this. So let's go ahead and distribute everything. So we get 14x cubed plus 70x minus 14x cubed minus 12x. I just distributed there. All of that over x squared plus 5 squared. One thing to note, the denominator, you don't ever really need to FOIL the denominator out. You want to keep the denominator factored because there is a small chance sometimes if you keep the denominator factored, you'll see that the denominator can cancel with one of the factors that you get in the numerator. Okay, so let's continue to simplify here. We get y prime equals 14x cubes cancel, and so we get 70x minus 12x over x squared plus 5. So if we simplify that again, we end up with, what, 58x over x squared plus 5 squared. Forgot to square that down here too. So that's what you get when you find the quotient, the derivative of a quotient here. 58x over x squared plus 5 squared. So again, when you're working with the quotient rule, you want to be sure to use the quotient rule and find common factors. Factor those common factors out, because that's how you end up with the answers that are similar to the choices that they give you in my math lab.